Okay, in this lesson we're going to make our transition into our next phylum, Phylum Chordata. The classification of chordates, or chordata, can be three major subphyla. We have vertebrata, urochordata, and cephalochordata. Vertebrates are all chordates that have a backbone. The other two subphyla are invertebrate chordates, meaning that they lack a backbone. Cephalochordates, an example being lancelets, that's how you pronounce that. Cephala, kind of again having to do with the brain or kind of central, kind of a nervous system head region. They have, adult lancelets have a head region. That's why they have that designator of a cephalochordate. And then we have the other group, the urochordata, or the tunicates. Again, don't hold me to the pronunciation there. And these two pictures here, we have the lancelet on the left and the tunicate. This is a bluebell tunicate on the right. We're not going to really talk much about these other subphyla too much. All right, I want to address one of the misconceptions that chordates are the same thing as vertebrates. That is not true. Vertebrates are animals that have a backbone, a vertebrae, and they are a group within the chordates. There are chordate groups, which we just were talking about, without a backbone. So again, not all chordates are vertebrates, but vertebrates are chordates. Here you can see a concept map, excuse me, showing the relationship between vertebrates and the other groups within chordates. So here is that other group. There's also a fourth group, which is sometimes included that I didn't mention. And then over here on the right, we have Craniata, again having to do with a cranium or a skull. And within that, we will be talking about the vertebrata. Okay, but there's also this class over here, or actually not a class, but I think it's a superclass. But we're going to be focused on the vertebrata. All right, so just some kind of general, we're going to talk about general groups and diversity within chordates. And in the rest of our course, we'll actually be taking a look at vertebrates in greater detail, like the fish and mammals, birds, reptiles, and amphibians. But in general, again, the chordata consists of those invertebrates and vertebrate chordates. It's a large and diverse phylum. It includes some 60,000 species. Chordates range in length from about 1 centimeter to 30 meters. So you have little itty bitty tiny microscopic organisms, or well, not quite microscopic, but little small organisms ranging all the way up to the largest animal ever to exist, the blue whale. They live in marine habitats. They live in freshwater habitats. They live on land or terrestrial habitats, and they also have aerial habitats. Okay, so again, a lot of variety and diversity there. So the defining characteristics of chordates, there are kind of 4 characteristics that we'll take a look at. The post-anal tail, the dorsal hollow nerve cord, the notochord, and the pharyngeal slits, or sometimes called pharyngeal pouches. Let's first take a look. Let's first take a look here at this kind of general chordate diagram, and we'll kind of keep coming back to this. Probably, unless they tell you otherwise in class, we're not going to be using this diagram for kind of testing purposes, just more of a reference diagram. So first is the post-anal tail, and a couple of these terms, just looking at the characteristic kind of tells you what it is, or where it's located. So we've got this word post, meaning after, and anal or anus. So post-anal means literally after the anus. So the post-anal tail is opposite of the head, and it extends past the anus. Again, remember with some of our earlier phylums, that was not the case, but with chordates, that's one of their defining characteristics. They also have a dorsal hollow nerve cord, and again, dorsal tells you that it's found on the back, and hollow would tell you that it's hollow. There are some non-chordates that actually have a solid nerve cord, but in chordates it's hollow, and it tells you that it's a nerve cord, so it has to do with the central nervous system, including the brain. Our third characteristic is the notochord. That's going to be found between the dorsal nerve cord and the digestive tract. And kind of its main purpose is to provide stiffness to counterbalance the pull of muscles. So this kind of gives muscles something to pull against. If you have an animal without a notochord, it might have some kind of skeleton structure to it, but the notochord is unique to chordates, and again, it allows those muscles to have something to either attach to or counteract. And our last is the pharyngeal slits. Sometimes these are referred to as pharyngeal pouches. Kind of depends on the resource you check. I am not an evolutionary biologist. Kind of my understanding is that the pharyngeal pouches can then develop into pharyngeal slits, and then kind of specialize depending on the animal group. But in either case, I'll just refer to these as pharyngeal slits. That's what many of the sources I was checking out referred to them as. So pharyngeal slits are basically a tube or a connection kind of located kind of in or on the pharynx, and connects the pharynx or the throat to its outside, to the outside. And again, sometimes it's used for food digestion and filtration, and in other organisms it's used as a respiratory, part of the respiratory system. And in humans it can, my understanding is that in humans these pharyngeal slits actually develop into the ear, or parts of the ear. And here I have an example of the human embryo showing slits that are in fish, or in some of the amphibians. They are present in humans in the embryo or embryonic stages. Which brings up a key point here, that all four traits are not present throughout a whole life cycle. So as an embryo, human embryo, still developing, humans have these slits, and we also have the post-anal tail. For the most part, our tail disappears by the time we're born. However, we do still have a few vertebrate that go past our posterior anus region, And in some cases, that tail doesn't entirely shrink, and there are humans that are born with a slightly longer tail or extra vertebrae at the end of their backbone. Now with kind of um, modern medical procedures, that's often removed though. All right, lastly, these are just some other characteristics of chordates. Chordates have 3 embryonic cell layers. They also have a segmented body with a true coelom. They have bilateral symmetry, meaning you can split them in half and and you would have the same symmetry on either side. So that's bilateral symmetry. They have a complete digestive system. They also have a closed circulatory system. They have meaning they have um, arteries and veins. And they also have a centralized nervous system. So again, those are some other characteristics of chordates, and hopefully this helps give you a better understanding of chordates and where we're headed with our vertebrates.